Good morning, day 134, cooking down the freezer, working pantry and refrigerator. I hope my coffee doesn't taste like vinegar this morning because I descaled my coffee pot and I tried to rinse it real well, but you never know. So we'll see. Do you guys have a Keurig? How do you make your coffee in the morning? French press, Keurig, drip, percolator. I remember I had a percolator back in the 70s. I haven't thought about that in years. I wonder whatever happened to that percolator. Do you ever remember things you used to have and then you wonder what you did with them? Who you gave them to, or if you gave them to charity? I don't know, things like that pop in your mind every now and then. I think most of us have had a lot of things in our lifetime. If you have any age behind you, and things have changed so much. I remember when cell phones first came out, they were huge. One of my favorite shows to always watch was The X-Files. I loved that show. I still watch it once in a while. I have the DVDs too, but I remember them running around with these big, huge cell phones. And then there was always the flashlight running around in the dark. Mulder, Scully. They were looking for each other. That was fun. Anyway, that was on for a lot of seasons, and that was a fun show. I always enjoyed it. I don't know if it's true, but I read an article a long time ago, years ago, that Mulder and Scully didn't really like each other that much, but they had a good on-screen presence. So since I got rid of the dish and the cable, I've been finding shows, and I really enjoy binge watching shows now. That way you don't forget from week to week what happened the previous week. So I'm really enjoying that, and I really haven't regretted getting rid of the dish and the cable for 1 second. I'm really enjoying internet TV better. I had internet TV plus the dish or cable, whichever one I had. I had dish, but it was a little bit of overkill, so I just got rid of the one, and now I just have subscriptions to different internet TV shows. But I do enjoy the binge watching. That's a new thing for me that occupies my time in the evening. I don't watch TV during the day. I do watch YouTube off and on, but mostly I'm cooking and trying to keep up with what I have going on here. But when I relax and sit down every now and then, I'll pop on a YouTube video. But there really isn't time to watch everybody that I love to watch, so I try and do my best. Anyway, it's cold again today, no outdoors. We have a freeze warning today and this evening. So I guess we just have to be patient. Things will happen in their own time. And it just makes you realize that the world doesn't revolve around us. Okay, I'll be back in a little while with my breakfast. All right, I'm making dinner before breakfast. So the other day when I bought the Flash food box, I had this big cauliflower. It had a couple spots here and there, but it was still in nice shape. So here in my Instant Pot, I put some cauliflower and potato and a couple cloves of garlic, because I also had this eggplant that came in the box, and I want to make a dish with the eggplant and like a cauliflower and potato mash. So because this needed to be eaten up too. So anyway, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the rest of this. I'm trying to avoid putting too much in my freezer. But I'm going to go ahead and salt this and cook it in my Instant Pot, probably for about 5 minutes or so until the potatoes are done. And then I'm going to cook this, fry it, not fry it, but saute it, and we'll see what we come up with. Okay, so when you're using your Instant Pot, one thing I found out was, because it's happened to me a couple of times where it didn't seal right, so before I use my Instant Pot, I always make sure this ring is in there properly, that it's not coming out where it shouldn't be. So I always check that before I seal it and put it in the Instant Pot. Just a little tip. Okay, make sure you save the stalk of the cauliflower to make some broth. I took all the florets off and I just put them in the fridge because I'd like to have some cauliflower with bechamel sauce. So I'm not going to freeze the cauliflower for now because there isn't that much room in the freezer yet. But if I have to, then I'll freeze it. So I'll be back in a little bit and we'll make some breakfast. Day 134. Okay, well, I have still this little muffin. I'm going to have that. I have this hot dog left over that I cooked. I'm going to have that. And this is my breakfast from yesterday. I'm going to have that. And I'm going to have some more apple butter for my muffin. That was really good. So that was the last muffin. I still have these egg bites. I have 4 of them, and I think I'm going to freeze 2 of them before they go bad. And in here I put some soy milk in with this peanut butter because I'm thinking I want to at some point make a smoothie with it. So if you have leftover peanut butter, stick some milk in there and then you can put it in a smoothie. All right, I think I'll add a little cheese to it. And back there is some salsa that I want to get out. So I will meet you at the stove. Afternoon tea today is going to be from the Dollar Tree, the apple and cranberry. So I have that on the little warmer here. And then this was my breakfast from yesterday, and I'm going to just chop it up a little bit along with this hot dog. So if you have odd foods, you can mix and match. This was just a bowl with egg and veggies and potatoes, but the potatoes are kind of big. I just want to chop those up because I want to make this into a wrap. So I'm just going to chop this up along with the hot dog, and I'm going to fry it a little bit in the frying pan to warm it up. And then I'll be back. Okay, I chopped everything up. I have a little butter in the pan, and I'm just going to warm that through. I really need more counter space. And these I got at the Dollar Tree last week, because the ones that I have are a little bit dry. So I'll use those for a casserole or something like that. And these I'll use to eat now. And like I said, I don't want to freeze a lot of things. I'm still trying to cook down my freezer. So these are still nice and soft. This one's kind of falling apart, but that's okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit of salsa to this as well. Not too much. I don't want it soupy, but I do want that flavor. And the only salsa I like is the mild. This one's from Aldi's, and it's pretty good. I think they also have a hotter one, but this is plenty for me. And this bowl had mushrooms and peppers and things like that in it. So, all right, I'm going to heat this up, and I'll be back. All right, on this tortilla I have some green onion and just some shredded cheese. And now I'm just going to add this to it. And actually this is enough for two. Of course it is. It always is. I cannot cook for one person. I find it impossible, as much as I'd like to. Okay. All right, so there we go. And I think I'm going to put a little shredded lettuce on here, and maybe a little ranch. So here is breakfast day 134. A wrap and a muffin with apple butter. All right, I'll be back in a little bit, and I'll finish my dinner. Well, I cooked up some of my potatoes and cauliflower, and now I want to add some chip dip to it. I'm on a mission to use this up. This is Drug Mart's brand French onion, and it's pretty good. So I'm going to put a good dollop in there, and I always use a clean utensil whenever I put things into something else. Let's say I was going to put some salsa in and some chip dip. I would use a clean utensil for each one, because otherwise your food will spoil quicker. So I'm just going to mix that up a little bit and put a couple tablespoons in there. So that's about right. And I'm going to put some pepper in. You can also use white pepper. It's a little milder. Alright, and then I'm just going to mix this up, and this is going to be my topping for the eggplant that I haven't cooked yet. It's almost like an eggplant shepherd pie. Okay, the alarm was sounding again. I've chopped up some eggplant, some zucchini, and some summer squash here. And I'm just going to put a little oil in my pan. This is avocado oil. And then I'm going to cook these up and put them in my casserole. I'm also going to take some of the eggplant and roast it because I have some Brussels sprouts that I also got in my box that I need to use up. So the recipe calls for tomato paste, but I want to use up some of this salsa. So I'm just going to saute these veggies, and I'll be back when they're done. Alright, I'm going to add some seasoned salt to these veggies. And some oregano. And also some Italian seasoning. Now I want to cook these until they're crisp tender, because I'm going to bake these with a layer of the cauliflower mash on top. So I don't want them too mushy. I'm going to add some pepper. And a lot of times I make up recipes as I go along. I'll get an idea from online, and then I just kind of go with my own thing. I'm trying not to make too much of this because I don't want to eat it for 4 days. Couple days would be good. But I need to cook up these veggies. And if I had another freezer, I would put it in there, but I don't. And since I'm trying to... For a quiet cul-de-sac street, more things go on this street. And then of course I always get my alarm going off when something does go on. My littlest dog is the biggest watchdog. Alright, so crisp tender, and I'm going to add some of this garlic that I've had forever. I'm going to add a good teaspoon of that. Because as this gets older, it's not as strong anymore. And I just want to cook that for a minute or so. Now if you like your eggplant crunchier, cook your zucchini first and then add your eggplant a little later, but I don't mind it soft. And now I'm going to add some of this salsa because I want to use it up. And it will give some otherwise bland vegetables a good flavor. because squash can be a little bit bland. And I salt my zucchini before I cook it, because sometimes, not zucchini, eggplant, because sometimes eggplant can tend to be a little bit bitter, and then I don't like it. Bitter is not my favorite taste. All right, I'm going to also add some coriander. And some onion powder and garlic powder. I love cooking with spices. It's so much fun. Okay, that was onion powder. And even though I added the granulate or the garlic, I'm still going to add some garlic powder. All right. Let that cook for 1 minute yet, and then I'm going to put together my casserole. So I'll be back. Okay, I have a small casserole dish. Got all my veggies. Now if you wanted to put chicken in here, or ground beef, or whatever, you could do that too, or beans. I was going to put beans in here, but I didn't want to open a whole can of beans, because then it would be even a bigger size dish, and I'm really trying to use it up. So I did not add beans. Alright, then here I have my big bowl of mashed cauliflower mash that I'm going to add on top. And there's enough mashed potatoes here where I can eat it with a couple of my leftovers. I still have a stuffed pepper, and I still have some sauerkraut that I'd like to use up this mashed potatoes with. So try thinking ahead when you're cooking. And things like potatoes and rice and pasta you can make more of and use for more than one dish. So I'm just going to cover this up here. Alright. And then I'm just going to heat this up in the oven. You can stick it in at 375 for maybe 10 minutes. Keep an eye on it. Make sure it doesn't burn, but you want to brown up the top of it a little bit. Alright. I'm going to sprinkle this with a little bit of paprika. Okay, so I have some paprika here. Sprinkle on a little bit of that for some color and also for some flavor. And then I also have some parsley here that I'm going to sprinkle on top. And some dried chives. Okay, so there is my eggplant and squash casserole with cauliflower mash, and I'm going to bake this later on this evening for my dinner. Alright, I will be back later. Okay, I cut up the rest of my veggies, eggplant, summer squash, and zucchini, and I'm just going to put some avocado oil on here. because this batch I'd like to roast. So here I have some roasted garlic and herb. It's by Weber. And I got these containers at the Dollar Tree. I don't know if they still have them, but that's where I got them, and I've had them for quite a while. So I'm going to generously season these. This is already salted, so, I mean, this has salt in it. And I save my bread bags and things for tossing veggies and whatever I want to coat. And let's see if that's enough. I think I could use a little bit more. I find I like these vegetables, but I find them a little on the bland side if you don't season them enough. All right. So I have a parchment lined tray that I'm going to dump these on, and then I'm going to cook these in my toaster oven. Since I don't use my big oven very often, it's too expensive. And I have things in there, baking things stored in there, that I kind of use it for storage. So I have to take everything out whenever I want to use my big oven. That way it's not wasted space, but I can still use it. But it keeps my bakeware in it. And I'm just going to spread these on a single layer. And I'm going to bake these at 400 for 20-25 minutes. Kind of have to check and see. Going to add a little pepper to it too. There we go. And I'm going to put this in the oven. Roasted veggies. I think I roasted them a little too long. I think 20 minutes would be good. I did them for half an hour. But that's okay. They're still edible. They're just very soft. Alright, so keep an eye on them. I went and took a nap. So, well, what are you going to do? Alright. I'll be back with dinner in a little bit. I have my little blender out here. The veggies that I had were really pretty soft. So, and they were a little salty. So what I ended up doing is making a soup out of them. I still had some of the broth left from when I cooked the cauliflower and the potatoes in the Instapot. I didn't throw that away. And then I have this soy milk that I want to use up. So I turn this into a nice creamy soup, and I'll probably put some croutons or something on there. And now it's tasty, because the vegetables that I roasted were a little overcooked. They were a little too soft. And they weren't to my liking, so you don't need to throw it away. Make something else out of it. Make a squash soup, or you can make a soup out of a lot of things. You don't have to add milk. You can add broth or water. So just a thought on what to do with food that you make that you aren't real crazy about. Make something else. Alright, well, it's afternoon. Not quite time for dinner yet. I have these cheese and garlic croutons. I always keep croutons, whether I make my own or store-bought. So I'm just going to have a little snack since it's not time for dinner yet. So I'm going to eat the soup I just made, and I put some croutons on, so let me give it a taste. It's nice and thick. You can make it as thick as you want. Very good. All right. Some more veggies saved. How you all doing? I just wanted to chat a little bit about food waste. If you're still throwing food away, you're buying too much food. So, I mean, that's kind of obvious, but we sometimes don't realize it when we're out there in the store buying the food. So, a suggestion that I have is you might want to, maybe for a month or a couple of weeks, write down the foods that you actually eat and enjoy. I mean, if you buy celery or lettuce all the time and then you end up throwing it away, maybe you don't really like lettuce and celery that much. You know you should eat it because it's healthy and all that, and you have good intentions, but maybe it's not your favorite thing to eat. Another thing you can do is think of different ways to reuse things, like the lettuce, for instance. If you buy lettuce, you can maybe freeze it and put it in smoothies. It'll add an extra boost of nutrition to your smoothies, and you probably won't even realize it's there once you add fruit or whatever else you add to your smoothies. So that's a way where you can stop wasting lettuce, and you can stick the whole, if you get it in those packs, the plastic packs, you can stick the whole thing in there in the freezer, and just take out what you need, or you can freeze it on a cookie sheet, or you can freeze it in a baggie and just flatten it so it doesn't take so much room. And then don't buy more lettuce until you finish up what you have. So celery, for instance, you can make celery juice, which is very healthy for you. So if you find you have too much celery, think about juicing it. If you don't have a juicer, you can put it in the blender and then strain it, and you can do that, and then you can either add it to soups or drink it. You can blend it with apples to make it a little more palatable, and just drink it. You can drink your veggies instead of eating them if you have too many. I bought these two veggie boxes really cheap. They were $5 a piece, and I know I've been talking about them for a couple days, but I really have a lot of peppers now, actually way more than I need, but I'm not going to let those go to waste. So I think what I'm going to do with them is dehydrate them, because I do have frozen peppers. I have enough in the freezer. And if I dehydrate them, I can make them into a mirepoix, which would be carrots. I still have carrots that I need to use up. I have celery, and I have a lot of onions. And those three make a mirepoix that you can use in cooking or in soups. And all you need to do is rehydrate them a little bit, and you can also put it in your long-term storage prep. So that's one thing you can do when you have too many vegetables. If you have too much greens, lettuces, spinach, anything green, you can dehydrate those too and make a green seasoning that you can also add to smoothies and soups, which will pack a whole lot of nutrition in without having to throw it away. The trick to it is, though, you have to catch it before it starts to turn, because once it's bad, you don't want to, you have to throw it away. But that's why I suggest checking your produce every day to see if it's still good or if it's maybe getting a little past its prime, then you might want to do something else with it. And I know a lot of us are in the prepper mode now, which is a good thing. And so you can, I mean, basically it's free preps that you don't have to go out and buy. You can make your own spices out of your dried veggies. If you buy spices, look on the ingredient list in the back. You may have to play around with it a little bit to get the right balance of spices, but it's not bad. My dogs are on a roll today. They're announcing everything going on the street, which is usually nothing when I go to the window and look. There's usually nothing there. But anyway, back to my spice talk. You can add salts to it, different flavored salts. You can make celery salt, you can make ginger salt, you can make all kinds of things. I have a whole bunch of salts up here that I actually bought, but I mainly keep them for decoration and for long-term storage. But these were, I think they were like $2. They were really cheap, and I got these at Big Lots. And this one is ginger salt, and there's quite a bit in there, and it's like a sea salt. So, but you can make your own if you have too much ginger, dehydrate it, blitz it up, and put it in with the salt. Another one I have is rosemary salt. I have that. And I also have sorry, I wasn't well prepared. Okay, I have parsley salt, and I also have onion salt. So that's one thing that you can make, and salt is a preservative, and it will also, once your dehydrated vegetables are in there, it'll continue to help preserve it. So there's all kinds of things that you can make with your veggies instead of throwing them away. Now meats, I don't know, you could try making jerkies out of them if you have too much meat. I can't counsel you on what to do with your meat, but my biggest suggestion would be don't overbuy. Don't buy more than what you can fit in your freezer. And when you buy it, put it in individual size servings, so that if you buy 5 pounds of hamburger, you don't have to thaw 5 pounds of hamburger. When I used to eat meat, that's what I used to do. I would buy a fillet or a pork roast or whatever, and I would cut it into pork chops. Some of it I would make a roast. Beef I would make into fillets and roasts, and I would do everything in a size that was appropriate for my family. And if you're a single person, you know, buying just a big chunk of meat instead of all already cut up, that can, if you buy a few of those, that could last you almost a year. You know, the pork chops, if you make pork chops, you can cut them thin, because honestly, we don't need a pork chop this thick. You know, a thin pork chop will do you just as well. A lot of us eat too much as it is, so that's a good way to monitor your portion size. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with your food. It takes a little work. If you don't want to do that, then just keep a little journal and see how much that you actually eat, and then don't buy more than that. If you run out of it, if you shop week to week, if you run out of it by the end of the week, then eat something else. So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about food waste, and we really can't afford to do that, especially nowadays. So that's all I have to say about that. All right, leave me a comment below. Let us know what you do to preserve some of your food if you have an abundance of it, and some ideas, so we can get ideas from each other as to what to do with excess food. All right, I'll be back with dinner, day 134. So I have my casserole in the oven, and now I want to see what I can have with it. So let's look in the freezer. And I think I'm going to have, let's see. Oh, I hope this doesn't all fall out. It's starting to get too much in there. Well, I have Impossible chicken nuggets. Or, let's see, what else do we have? I think I'll have some of this Beyond Chicken breaded tenders. Okay, I'm going to stick that in my air fryer, and then I will meet you back at the stove. Dinner is ready, and I made actually 4 of these. I made 2 extra for tomorrow. I can either put them in a salad that needs to be eaten, or I can put them on a sandwich and make a chicken sandwich. So here I have a salad of romaine, celery, red pepper, and ranch dressing. And then here I have my casserole that I made earlier today. So if you're not good at cooking in the evening, try cooking earlier in the day, and see if that doesn't work for you. So this is just a very simple vegetable casserole. And I'm using up the squash and the eggplant. I used up some potatoes and some cauliflower and some salsa. Still have a tiny bit of salsa left, but not much. So there we have it. Dinner, day 134, using what I have in the refrigerator, freezer, and pantry. All right, I'm going to enjoy my dinner, and in the meantime, I want to wish you abundant blessings. I love you guys. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. God bless you. And I'll see you next time. It's day 134. A wrap. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment, and like. Thanks for watching.